Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order of the North Harris County Regional Water Authority July 7th board meeting. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Mr. Kern McDowell with Geotech Engineering who would come and lead us in both our pledges. Would you please stand?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. We've got four here tonight, all the board members are here. Our next item is public comments, and we've just got one blue card. If you'd like to speak, fill out a blue card, please. So, Mr. Jerry Norman, would you come on up?
I'd like to take this moment to pray and think about all the people that were affected in Central Texas, loss of life and just devastating effects. I believe in prayer and it makes a difference. So, it is about time that the North Harris County Regional Water Authority changed their current adversarial strategy of dealing with the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District. After another failed attempt by Texas Representative Tom Oliverson in the 2025 legislative session, both House Bill 1643 related to the regulation authority of the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District over the North Harris County Regional Water Authority and House Bill 3818 related to the extension of groundwater reduction target years established by the Harris County Subsidence District. Both failed to get the needed support. What about the infamous demand letter we were going to send over 18 months ago that has not been sent to date, spending thousands upon thousands of dollars in rewrite after rewrite? We may want to consider our approach. Reconsider our approach. How about allowing their general manager and government affairs director, both who have excellent long-standing working relationships with the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District, the TCEQ, and the Texas Water Development Board to do their jobs? A letter written by the GM that could change the negative tone and start to rebuild the damaged relationship. How about finding a pathway forward with a cooperative strategy, built upon mutual respect, reasonable solutions with practical common goals? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, is not working. Unfortunately, the North Harris County Regional Water Authority will need to start the painful process of raising the North Harris County Regional Water Authority rates in short order, just to break even with the cost to deliver water. We told you so when you arbitrarily lowered the North Harris County Regional Water Authority rates for political reasons. It will be much more difficult and painful to the MUDs, your customer, and their water users to raise the rates back to where they were and even higher. Start listening to your team of professionals, both staff members and consultants, for better results. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't believe there's any other blue cards, any other public comment? Okay. Next is agenda item 3, message from the president and board members. Director Green? Director Barker? Director Ramsey?
Nope.
Director Wesley?
Nope.
Okay. Excellent. Well, all I'd like to say is that I attended the AWBD conference. The sessions were very good and the networking was very good too, so I'm glad that I went. Okay, moving along. Next up is agenda item 4, approving the minutes from the May 5th and June 2nd regular board meetings.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, any discussion? Is that for both?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. And next up is agenda item 5, the finance director's report. The monthly financial report, payment of bills.
Thank you. Financial report is as of May 31st, 2025. And the detailed reports have been provided in the report packet and posted on the website. They include balance sheet, statement of revenues, expenditures, investment report, and budget comparisons. The breakout of all of our, fund categories are on the screen. The design, engineering, acquisition, construction, consultants, and expense checks are totaling $12,374,329.16 and are presented for your signature, and I'd like to give you approval of the financial report and authorization for payment of the bills.
Our motion,
Motion.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Next up is the, agenda item 6, general manager report.
Good evening. First up, we have the status of the surface water supply and conversion. You'll see the next monthly update to your charts. Things in the month of June have been much similar to the previous couple of months. It hasn't been quite as hot and dry. I heard someone else commenting on water sales here earlier. So the surface water deliveries for the month of June averaged 32 mg. And then looking towards last month, percent conversion last month, 31%. So this is in line with what we did last year. Now, deliveries were higher, but groundwater usage was also higher, so that's why we're roughly at the same percent conversion. Looking on your historical percent conversion, so similar information presented a little bit different way. What you'll see then, adding in for the month of May, conversion is hovering right where we've been for the past 5 years in terms of total percent conversion. So that's where we are on the month of May. More to come as we get into summer.
On the purple line, does that imply that the developers are outbuilding this, or is there some other reason?
It's a good question. I haven't looked at the data, but I would guess that the groundwater usage has gone up similarly to the surface water usage. So we're trying to outpace what is groundwater pumpage in the whole entire region with the conversion that we're trying to achieve. So while we may have gotten, let's say, another 6 or 8 months that have been connected, and we've done a lot more of the larger transmission lines, and we'll have a lot more nodes that will be connected with some of these construction projects that will be coming online over the next year, and then we're going to be kicking off construction of all the 37 series to get another 22 connected. So we have a lot more nuts that get in the hopper soon, and so a lot of the construction is focused on some of the bigger lines. But that being said, that would be something to look a little bit closer at to see, is it that we are getting more pumpage? Are we getting more reported now that we have an AMI system that's actually monitoring the pumpage? So that's, either of that could be part of what's going on. Could just be weather patterns and usage patterns that folks who are on surface water aren't using as much water as the folks who aren't on surface water. Could be that as well. So.
And the 2025 deadline, we have till next year.
So your 60% conversion starts on December 1st. Your permit runs through November 30th. So you're at the 30% conversion through November 30th, and on your permit cycle that starts December 1st is when the 60% is required. So you won't actually then look at that until the end of your permit cycle. You'll see what kind of conversion that you hit. So it'll be at the end of November of next year is when you'll tally up, did we hit the 60% or not? And then we'll go into using the credits or not being there.
So on the previous slide, that purple line trending down, what's gonna change in the next 18 months?
So the next 18 months, we do have quite a few months that are gonna be coming online, so that's going to be really, it's driving capital projects and getting those completed. I don't have the number offhand, but I can get that for you for the next board meeting to talk about the months that are coming online. Or between now and then.
All right, but I guess what I'm getting at, maybe not diplomatically, is how do we double our percentage in the next 18 months?
I think unfortunately, we're not going to be able to, is really the truth of it. That any of these capital projects, the capital projects take a significant amount of time. We've spent a lot of time looking at what are each of the steps of these capital projects, where can we try to expedite things as we keep moving forward. There are strings that are tied with the funding sources that you all use that require us to do certain steps in a certain order. Those take time. There's also land acquisition, when you're acquiring parcels, takes a significant amount of time. And rightly so, to do the proper, to follow the current laws that are in place and make sure that we're giving people ample time, give them multiple notifications, and try to negotiate with landowners before proceeding down in eminent domain path. So following all of those, projects take time. So if I pulled the trigger on a project tomorrow, if the project was cash funded, we might be able to get it done in 3 or 4 years between design, permitting, land acquisition, and construction. If it's funded through SWIFT funding, which is what we're doing the majority of your projects on through, that is a good solid 5 to 6 years to get a project done with the steps that we have.
So in the last 5 years, have we pushed any projects, and if so, what?
Pushed them as in delayed them?
Yeah.
No, so we have kept moving forward, to my knowledge, although I haven't been up here the whole time in the 5 years, but to the best of my knowledge, the authority as a whole, whether it is at the board level, at the staff level, has kept all of the projects continuing to move. You've got COVID that has impacted things, supply chain impacted things, and just the pace of projects, what we used to be able to accomplish prior to law changes on how eminent domain works, and then just using different funding sources and using revenue bonds versus the SWIFT funding has slowed down the pace of projects. So I think we're still pushing forward as quickly as we can to get things out the door.
Would you say it's safe to say that the goal is maybe not attainable? In the time frame that was set up 2017?
Yes,
Yes.
and I will address that later on item 11.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you for teeing us up nicely for appreciating that.
So, one more question. So, say the development triples. And that's just one more thing in addition to all these things that are slowing our projects. Would that not be reasons to go back to Scott's district and say, because of supply chain, because of land acquisition, and all that, we just can't do it. And we may not even have the credits. I think we have a laundry list of reasons why things are just slowed down significantly.
You will allow me, but I will address all of that.
Okay, later.
Item 11.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, also.
Next one's also me. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit, because we've had a couple of meetings about the metering, a couple of board meetings where we talked about the metering program, and now we're coming to talk about a billing system. So I wanted to just take a step back and talk about what your current state is of your metering program, and what is the need right now, and what is the ask of you all here tonight. So what you've got up on this screen is okay, so what you've got up on this screen is a graphic where you can see you've got some wells that are up on the top. You've got a surface water delivery system at the bottom. So right now you're metering both the groundwater usage and the surface water usage. And in practice, what happens is that each well owner individually monitors their metered usage on their well. They then self-report that metered usage into your online pumpage and reporting systems. That's OPRS is what that is, the acronym there. So online pumpage and reporting system. So they self-report whatever the monthly usage is on their wells. On the surface water side, it's a little bit more labor intensive in order to collect this information. So what currently happens and currently is in place is that we've got InfoMark staff that goes out and manually reads these meters at the end of the month. They provide the data over to the program management team that QCs what's going on. They might need to work hand in hand to figure out, hey, there's a meter that didn't work, we need to make some estimates, let's work with the MUD in order to make the proper estimates for the month, or maybe there was a day or two of something that was missing. So there's some manual work that goes on there. And then the authority staff then receives the data and manually enters in all of the data into the online pumpage and reporting system. So there's a lot of labor intensive to get that data into OPRS. And then you're also relying upon well owners on the honor system for them to report their own pumpage into the system. From there, any, I'm going to call them GRP participants, whether they were a well owner or whether they're receiving surface water or both, all of their data is then in OPRS, and they can then generate their own bill from OPRS. And then from there, that bill gets generated, they print it out, and they mail it in with a check. And that is how we currently do invoicing here at the authority. The OPRS system itself is 20 years old. It's past its useful life. From a cybersecurity vulnerability perspective, it's one of those things that definitely we are at the end of the useful life of that program and want to still continue to be up to date with it. And it has been essentially sunsetted. The folks who built it, we would have to rebuild in terms of cybersecurity type perspective. But also what happens is this does not currently communicate with your smart metering system. So I popped up on here, you have smart meters, the AMI meters that are installed on the wells now. It actually communicates up into the cloud into a system called Beacon. So just in case you ever hear me talk about Beacon or OPRS, now you know what both of them are. So Beacon is where we can see everything related to all of these smart meters. Unfortunately, because OPRS isn't the program, it is not capable of communicating with Beacon. So that is where we're at right now. So you still have the same system of well owners now reading the data. Now we can at least validate what data they're reading and putting in versus what's in OPRS, but it's not an automated system, and you don't have an automatic program that's looking at these things. So our recommended path forward for you all is number one, to ultimately get all of your meters up in there and also eliminate the multiple touch points of people on the surface water side. This is something I'll talk to you about in the future. Should be a minor conversion to go and integrate the existing meters and just have them talk into Beacon. But that's something that we're looking at here to recommend to you all in the near future. But the step that really we need to do is find a new billing system that would work seamlessly with Beacon and integrate the data seamlessly in there. So we're now taking out the steps of folks hand entering in their data into the new billing system. Additionally, with the new billing system, what we have heard from some of the customers is that they would be interested in doing electronic payments and having that option. That might not be what the MUDs would like to do, but some of the smaller users may want to be able to have that capability. And then we also got a recommendation from your internal controls auditor to improve your accounts receivable and how you are monitoring aging accounts receivable. And so a new billing software set out to look for something that was capable of doing each of these things. We had some demonstration tests or demonstrations done by multiple different vendors. Wanted to make sure and ask vendors, is it capable of doing all these things? We don't want to get a system and recommend to you all a system that can't communicate seamlessly with what you have in place. And so we ended up ultimately shortlisting 3 vendors that met all of the criteria and received cost proposals from 3 vendors. At this point in time, what we are bringing and proposing to you all tonight is to allow the general manager to procure the Springbrook platform, the Springbrook billing platform, and they have an electronic system of bill payments associated with them called Express Bill Pay. We reached out to each of the vendors to see what was the cost for this and what would this look like. So on the Springbrook billing platform, any billing software, there's typically two charges, or any really software, you will have two charges. Something that's gonna be for implementation, that's a one-time cost. We need to get all the data migrated over. We need to set it up to bill properly. We need to set it up to communicate properly. So there's an implementation fee oftentimes with software, and then there's an ongoing annual subscription type fee with software. So on this billing system, and in your packet, what you have seen will be a recommendation for us to proceed forward with Springbrook. They were the lowest cost of the three. We went and vetted different references for them and then spoke to end users to see how they liked the system as well, and we got positive feedback on that. And we also were impressed with the features when we did see the demonstration. In terms of cost, the implementation phase, they've given us a budget estimate for it, and they would do it on a time and materials basis, and once they monthly charge based upon what we would ask them to do. Here's how much data we need converted, here's how many custom bills that we need to have set up. So that's something that we've got a budgetary price in here that we think it would not exceed $100,000 from the implementation side. And then on the annual subscription cost, we think that that would be approximately a $25,000 annual fee. That $25,000 fee would be for a 3-year term, and it's slightly less than $25,000 and works its way up to $25,000 each year. It matches up a little bit, is the way that they've structured their proposal. And we are requesting permission for the general manager to procure the software and negotiate and execute the contract with Springbrook.
One question, two questions. So, this is just the billing system, we still don't have the two different types of meters talking to the system, so what's that?
Correct,
Is
so that's.
it SCADA or what is it?
Yes, so what we've been looking at and we've been evaluating is what would it take to get the meters, do we pull the meters out of SCADA into the billing system? And right now, the preliminary recommendation that I've gotten from my automation team that is involved, from the metering team, is that likely what is the best solution is to actually just take the control panels at each one of these sites. There's a relatively low cost solution that we can put an additional widget into the control panel, for lack of a better term, that will be able to communicate directly to BN. So that is currently the direction that I think that I would recommend to you all. We don't have the budget estimate yet. That's something that we actually had the team out looking, even just finished up looking at all of the water receiving facility sites just last week. So that's what I need to get next, is get that budget estimate for you. That would be the last piece of the puzzle, and then you would have, it would directly offset some costs that you all are incurring to have the labor to handle the data right now.
And my other question is, if we go with electronic payments, what does the security look like on that? I would hate to be explaining to customers how somebody got into their bank.
Yes, so this is completely hosted through the third-party Express Bill Pay, which actually is even a third separate contract, that it is their responsibility in terms of the cybersecurity. And so that is something, they do bill pay across the country, and they probably do for, I don't remember if it was 1,000 or 2,000 different municipalities, utilities, public sector across the country, that they are the Springbrook is a platform, and then bill pay is an add-on service that they do for a portion of those folks. Yeah, oh, and then the one thing I did not mention is the way that the electronic payments, what we would propose as far as the structure for that, since that is something that would be a convenience to the customer. We would recommend structuring that contract that if the customer chooses to elect to do an electronic payment instead of mailing in a check, that we would, and there's a cost that's associated with that the customer would pay for that. So much like when you go and renew your driver's license, we pay the extra $3 fee online for you to do it as an online payment. That would be the exact same.
Or your mud bill.
Or your mud bill, yes, or your mud bill, so it's the same way, yes. So that would be the plan, is that we would, that same structure, rather than being borne by the authority, that would be the convenience feature offered to customers from the customer.
Now, how widely used is this software?
So this software in the billing platform sphere, of the various different platforms that we looked at, this one's probably in the, I would say, medium to large users. We looked at some that are smaller niche software platforms as well that some of the other authorities in this area use. They were significantly more expensive, which was surprising. This software platform, I think I saw somewhere in the 1,000 to 2,000 range for different municipalities, water districts, utilities, cities that might use it across the country.
Have you got feedback from any of those in this area that are actually using it now?
So I asked specifically, when I went for references, I actually asked for specifically for districts that were similar to the authority. And the authority has a very unique billing structure as compared to a typical city and how they're gonna, oh, here's your water, your sewer, your trash, you might see, or even some muds go that same way. So it's a very different billing structure. So trying to find how can we have a system, some of the key things for us, we're finding a system that could work with the Beacon that would be capable of doing the various way that we look at invoicing, which sometimes we have credits that folks pay certain things off over time, having that capability. And not credits as in their bill, as in we agreed to jointly fund a project and they're gonna pay certain things off over time. So we wanted to make sure it had that capability. We also wanted the capability to be able to manually enter in meter data so that if a system isn't converted to over to the automated metering infrastructure system yet, they aren't on the new AMI system yet, but that end user still can go and put in their own meter data, just like we have right now. So having a software platform that allows access for that, so that it's not an added burden, because right now that's not on the groundwater side, that's not something that the authority does. That entire function is done by the well owners. So we wanted to make sure to still have that capability so that if a well was not yet on the smart meters, that they would be able to do that as well. So we did talk to some unique districts, one that was a groundwater management district that very similar but different in California, that had wholesale customers and had take-or-pay commitments and had different things so we talked with them and got their experience. We also talked with a utility that was a similar utility in Florida. So I didn't talk to anybody in Texas, but I specifically asked for somebody that was similar to the authority in terms of references.
So, having in 20 years been involved in adopting 4 different ERP systems,
Yes.
the big problem, the big hurdle that most places get with large systems is that you are too hemmed in through a certain way. So just as a cautionary tale, when you want a special feature, they're gonna tell you no, because that affects all their other customers. So that might be why the special, the initial ones are a little more expensive, because they're actually going to the opposite. They're just further.
Absolutely, and those were questions, I'm gonna say this one elaborate, I'm sorry, Oliver, because Cindy was in on all of this with me as we were talking to them. That was definitely questions for us, we wanted to make sure it's specific capabilities. I think it's also important to recognize you do have to sometimes adjust what your procedures are based upon what the software is capable of. So we also recognize that as well.
Appreciate all the work y'all put into this, and I know I'm anxious not going with the most expensive one.
You know, the one that is, some of our sister agencies are using was the option. So the one that would have been the easy button for us, because we can see exactly, hey, I can see exactly what another water authority uses and exactly their system, was significantly more expensive.
This is still a really good one. So
This,
thank you.
no, this is by far, this is a great option, it has great features. Once all the data is in there, it has great analytics capabilities and reporting capabilities to be able to show you all and trend different things like the groundwater and surface water all in one place. So it's got some really good features too.
And I was just quoting too, and probably the least highlighted, but yes, but all of the custom reporting capabilities that we could do at a touch of a button.
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Okay, so we've got a motion for the general manager to procure the new billing software. Any good discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes
Sure.
Right now, there is a, alternative water use incentive agreement, between Mud 383 and, Glenlock Pines Golf Club. And the golf club is selling to another entity, and so they need to have an assignment of the alternative water agreement to the new entity. And we have the signature, the agreement has been approved by everyone. It's been reviewed by us and, the manager. And, it appears to be in good form. The, golf club and the company acquiring the golf club have both executed the agreement. However, the water district has not met that. And the attorney and others are either out of the country or indisposed in some way. So, the choice here is to either approve the agreement as presented, but if we want someone from that creative group to be here, we could do it at the next meeting. They have already closed the transaction as far as I know. In fact, I know from personal experience that, nonprofit that I work with has a fairly permanent scheduled there, but there won't be a, golf club there, so there won't be a building there, so we have to move. So anyway, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So, as far as we're concerned, it's basically a name change.
Yes, that is correct. And the reason I ask the question is generally, you prefer that everyone who signs something, sign it first. In this case, there is one signatory that is passed through water district, basically, that hasn't signed. But I don't have a problem if you approve it tonight.
So what is the motion? What's the appropriate motion for
To,
this?
to approve the assignment and assumption of the alternative water use incentive agreement, between the authority, and Mud 383 and Glenlock Pines and
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion?
Only discussion would be is if June has any reservations at all.
No,
Okay.
pretty good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, motion carries.
Next item. Oh, that's Raj, sorry.
Okay, this is the interlocal agreement with the Cypress Hill Environmental Law. I would like to give you kind of background of Project 37H. With this, ILA tied into 37H. So if you see that, so see, if you see this blue line, right here, this is project called 37H. This is 37F, and this 37I, the green one. But this original, forget about this cloud portion, this original was 37H, all 12-inch line all the way to here, tied 36-inch line here. So back in June or August 2024, Cypress Hill Mud number 1 approached us, wrote a letter, they are buying this property here to build a future water plant. So can they get water from us? If you see, this is the connection we're talking about. So for us to serve them water, which is almost 1 MGD, so we have upgraded this line from 12 to 20 inch. So to do that, they said, that's what this agreement is talking about. So why do we need this agreement? In this one, we tell them, for us to make that upside the line and to accommodate their request, is delta into redesign and construction costs add up today, the estimate was $1.24 million. So they agreed to that. So what happens
if down the road, before we complete the project, they have two options at that point. If we construct the plant as it is under the upsize, and they don't build the plant, they will pay us the actual cost, which is the design cost, and the actual construction cost, which may change from now and then. Or if they can let us know 30 days ahead of we build the project, then we don't want that for many reasons. So then they have to pay us the money we spent from original design, upgrade, then bring it back to original design for that data. They have to pay us. So it's a win-win situation for us either way. And we will be selling the water if they go through this one MDD.
Is the upsize line just gonna go down this main road, or, cause this is that property,
This is right here, this is the property they're buying, Cypress Boulevard, that's where they want to build the plant. This is a line will be 20 inch from here all the way to here. And from this tee off, this is forward again, which is original design.
but up there where it goes through that family's property, they had come in last summer. Is it gonna be upsized to that property too?
I don't, family talking about, but we're going to upside this shield road, right here. After this.
Right there where it's on gets Squiggly and goes through some property. The husband and his wife came here last summer.
And also, we emphasize the water line, the easement is wide enough to handle.
Oh, yeah, it's the same as, but we would probably have some more PCEs to construct a bigger line.
But we haven't put the line in yet.
No, we have the design.
Right.
But where it goes from, what is this road right here, right now?
This is shield road, this is Muskie.
So Muskee, so where it goes from Muskee to Shield, is that gonna be 12 inches or
No, see,
only down there?
this is the Muskie from here all the way to here will be 20 inches. It was 12 inches to begin with.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still gonna go through that property like it was before?
It's the same route.
And it's going from 12 to 20?
Yes.
So we're gonna take out a bunch of trees?
But it's the same amount of trees, but we the 12 as well as 20.
So the easement hasn't changed.
So where were we gonna tie in previous to this?
See, previously, this was 37F, 37I, was the green line here, the green. So we're tying this right here to this line here, because this is further go that way, 37H. So all we're doing, this was all original, like 37H go that way, comes here, this was original, put out, all the way up to here. All we're doing to accommodate these people here, we're increasing the line size from here all the way to here. That's all we're doing. And then
I understand, but what were you gonna do for them if this was not in place?
we were going to 12 inch.
No, we're not.
So there wasn't going to be a,
No, it wasn't.
there wasn't going to be a water receiving facility there that was being delivered. So now, so this is essentially additional development with an additional water receiving facility for us to deliver.
It was an opportunity presented.
So is the houses there yet, or are they in those empty fields on the left?
This is all empty yet. We are,
Oh, I'm sorry, up and to the left. To the left, and have the big empty fields. That stuff, yeah, is that where the development's going? Anybody know?
That's probably those properties.
This is my district.
Rick Parker, what Roger was talking about earlier is the engineer and the Mud-District approach to the reporting. They're having some water pressure issues because they're developing, basically, they can't get the water from their existing water plants up into the area that's already developed, which is on the east side of Muskie Road and north of where that future water plant is. So what they came up with, in turn, nothing to do with the authority, they identified that by building that new water plant, they could address not only their pressure problems that they're in right now during the peak demand, but also address some additional development that is forthcoming to the north in that general area. You can see right in there, that area. I don't know the details about it, and share that with us, but this was basically two problems that would be solved by them building this one. But they would build a water plant, and they were wanting to get surface water, and that's what Roger's been talking about, this interlocal agreement. And again, the interlocal agreement is for them to cover the cost of upsizing the line. And if they back out, it's a win for the authority, because the authority gets reimbursed for any cost of the authority going to do. Otherwise, as Raj mentioned, we selling the water, and selling the water, the authority helps convert it, and it's covers the cost of the improvements. And to answer your question, Ralph, this is not the family that came earlier. They were on another project, which we refer to as Project 37 Charlie, 37 cents, not almost. The family that no one's ever come up here, spoken to the board.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware of here on this facility.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve the interlocal agreement for the authority, one upsizing Cypress Hill Light number 1. Well, I made the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. I'd be so excited about that. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries.
Okay, next item is, the amendment to the rate order. As you may recall, directors, this item was presented to the board in May meeting, and, it was postponed by the board to the July meeting. So the reason it was postponed was at the time, the general counsel has some concerns on the wording and, verbiage of the amendment itself. So since the general counsel and myself and committee members have met and discussed the further revisions to the language, and we made no significant, no substantial changes to the amendment itself. The major change is to add this exhibit. This exhibit clearly demonstrates how the fee will be calculated. We have defined each of the terms we used in the table, and so the fee will be calculated by using the total debt service paid by the authority since inception, divided by the total flow before we go to the flow, then converted that debt service amount to the present value. Then we calculate the total water conversion since inception, divided by the dollar amount, come up with the cost dollar. That is the capital recovery cost for all the debt service incurred, payment incurred by the authority. And the length of time that required to pay off that will depend on the years that the particular new GRP participant entered this agreement. So the first year, the authority incurred cost is 2003. So if you enter a GRP agreement with the authority in 2025, then we will use the year you enter the agreement in 2025 minus 2003, you will pay 22 years, I'm sorry, 22 years of this supplemental rate to bring you back to the same status with the existing GRP participants. I'll be happy to answer any questions. There's no change to the definition of who should be paying a fee that's the same as what we posted online. Again, happy to answer your questions.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so just to clarify, I'm sure I know the answer to this, but I'm putting it on the record.
Mhm.
The participant fee is completely separate and on top of whatever the other fees that we charge for the service.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right. That's why we call it supplemental rates. So,
I don't see something else.
that's in the,
Actually, gotcha. Okay.
yes, sir.
Is it fair to characterize this as a buy-in?
That's correct. Yeah, that's a perfect description, yes. There's no question I would request, well, I will first like to send two board members, Director Kelly and Director Taylor, for their time on this. They spent a significant amount of time, and our general counsel for their review and the contribution to this. And I would like to request the board to approve this amendment to the rate.
So moved. I move we amend the rate orders to include the participation.
Second.
I would just like to say, I appreciate all the work involved, and thank you, committee members. And I'm glad we finally came to something, looks like a lot of calculations. And I do support the concept of a GRP participation fee. However, I'm gonna vote no on this amendment because I have concerns about how the details have been developed and influenced. After each meeting, our legal counsel has contacted a committee member to try and change his mind on the specifics of the fee structure. I feel like this kind of behind the scenes pressure is compromising the integrity of the process and undermines the purpose of forming committees in the first place. I believe any fee proposal should come through a transparent committee-driven discussion and not private persuasion. So that's my reason for voting no. Again, though I do support this concept and I appreciate all the work involved. We do have a motion and second on the floor actually, so any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Nay. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. And the next item is related to surface water. The authority entered water supply contract with the city. And by the contract, the authority acquired the right to the surface water and supply them to our customers. And the Greatwater currently and some of the mud districts receive surface water right. The water supply contract also very clearly stated the authority will retain the right to the effluent once they discharge into spring or pipe. And after it becomes the state water. So, based on that, I have initiated this application to TCEQ for the reuse of that effluent. And for that application, we need to identify a diversion point, which means we have to find a site that's suitable to take those effluent from the river or creek. So we have tentatively identified the confluence of the Spring Creek and Cypress Creek as our diversion point. But we authority need to have, we will need to engage an engineer to study the feasibility of that site so that we can build a treatment plan to receive that water. Now, originally, that is not my preference. I would prefer to select the diversion point at the existing Lawson's plant site. And the benefit of that is that if the authority will need additional surface water in the future, we need the city of Houston for their raw water, we can use our own water rights. And unfortunately, the city is not very responsive, and they have not agreed as of today to allow us to use that site as the diversion point. So this is a plan B per se, and so I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Seems to be a fully owned water authority piece of land and lot.
Correct.
And we own the water at that point, it's no longer city of Houston water?
Correct. So that was the whole reason for me to apply for that, because we have contracted significant work with the city, $144 million a day. And you take the channel loss and all the other things, you will get still significant amount of water, reuse water rights. At my rough calculation, that is a very valuable asset.
It is very valuable, especially since I've been hearing all sorts of rumors around about asking the Gulf Coast to ship their excess water to the Hill Country. So that was the reason I initiated this. If not, I will request the board to approve for a RFQ. I normally do not need for approval for RFQ, but this is a unique situation. It's not under CRP, and I also want the board to be aware of the
Is there a motion? Alright, there's the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, I'm sorry. Agenda item 7, the operations report.
Hello, directors. Brian, again, good to see everybody. I'm doing the report for Jerry today. Jerry, his daughter's birthday is today, so he's celebrating that. So you have me, and Jerry's meeting next month. I do have the report. Everyone should have a copy here. Everything is doing well in the authority. It was a little bit of a lighter month than we're used to for June, so more rainfall. And the one thing that we do want to mention is that there was a lightning strike at one of the water receiving facilities on June 18th, so we used some spare parts to get that back up and running again. Very dramatic. We get a lightning strike. Where was that? Mills Road, Mud, water plant number 2 is where that happens. So we got it back up and running now. It is getting reads, so we do have to replenish some of our spare parts and replace some of the things we use, but at least we are back up and running out there. They're getting surface water, community work every day. Aside from that little bit of dawn, everything's been right. That is all I have to report. Answer your questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Brian. Next up, agenda item 8, the Director of Planning and Governmental Affairs, Mr. Mark Evans.
Thank you, Madam President. Board members, I will just briefly say this evening that, of course, the governor has called a special session for July 21st. He initially placed 6 bills on the agenda. He did veto 26 bills from the regular session, number 89, which included House Bill 2520, which was a bill related to open meetings that will affect on the authority, but he vetoed it, so don't worry about that one. The main focus of the call for a special session is Senate Bill 3, which is relating to regulations of products derived from hemp. It's going to be the main topic, but there were several other bills that same bills placed on the agenda. And of course, I think we should expect, because of tragic flooding in Hill Country, there'll be some potential disaster-related topic as well, especially early warning system.
What you happen to know, I know this has come up pretty widely on social media, but I know at least around here, all these tributaries and rivers and creeks are pretty thoroughly monitored at bridges and things like that. Isn't that also the case out in the Hill Country?
I think the river, some of the river authorities out there do have those type of monitors.
It's already there.
It's just the early warning system apparently is the big topic, and I know it's programming, we had sirens at the jail, at the sheriff's department. Apparently in some places, they still have it. Obviously. So,
Thank you. Agenda item 9, construction engineering update.
Okay. So 9A, the update on new expansion. As of today, phase 2A, which is ADMDB 1 thing, is in operation. Pumping 63 MMGD as of this morning, no issues so far. And which is phase 2B, which is under 60 MGD. The substantial completion contractual date is July 28, 25, is trending towards September 2025, and final ending January 2026. And existing plant is still down, the rehab, hopefully will be back in September 2025. Any questions on the open comments?
I almost got all that. When I have to talk a little slower,
Repeat it.
because you mentioned the phase
Okay.
2A and B.
Phase 1, phase 2A, phase 1 ADMDB, first one, that came in service. Then phase 2A came online, another ADMDB, which is a total 160 MGD. So, but we are not running both simultaneously. Right now, we're running only one, which is phase 2A ADMGD. So, as of this morning, we are pumping 63 MGD.
So we have, phase 1 is idle.
Absolutely, yes. So the second milestone, which is another 160 MGD, which is 2 trains of 80 MGD each. Contractual substantial completion should happen in July 2025, but it's trending towards September 2025. This will be July. But we are kind of working on that perspective. So that will, hopefully that will come online. Our substantial completion is September 2025, which is another 160 MGD. So that's the story on the new expansion. And the existing plant it has been down for the period that we have, and still down. So it will be, plant will be back in service September 2025.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know we've got plenty of water, not questioning that, and not trying to trust anything, but generally speaking, you know, the second, third, fourth, et cetera, iteration of something goes faster, and why is number 3 and 4 apparently going slower?
Usually because it's not slower, because it's July 28 was the original substantial completion. It's only September, a couple of months, because of the delays can happen for many reasons. So if you remember, phase 1 was way too late. That's why we have so much LDs, almost $40 million LDs. So, but as of
So it's better, it's just not as late as
yeah,
first.
but going on the record, we still say that we will finish it, but we know it's not going to finish. That's all.
Some more?
We're going to the next item. Yes, you know.
Any question on the previous? Okay, item 9, 39B is also mine. This item is a construction award for project 31. As you can see on the screen, and it's also in the package. 31F is tying this system 28, the yellow one, and the 37 and 31, they connect the loops, major 48-inch, major trunk line, basically completing the loop system 2025. So also, we are also adding this one project here, which is grant your speed reader between number 2 for this one. So this is basically major artery of our system, which will make our system more robust, reliable, and resilient. Authority received the bids on this project on June 7th. We have 5 bids. And the first bid was NHCRWA Utilities LLC. It was in the amount of $27,327,557.50. The second was Principal Services Limited. It was again $27,727,524.10. There's a cover sheet that's included into the package. There was added on that. As number 2 should be Principal Services name, and third should be Dave Garber. So the third bid was Dave Garber, $27,953,733. The number 4 was DELT Construction of Texas, $29,620,836.50. There were actually several bids. 5 was MC2 Civil LLC, was $30,472,162.50. Number 6 was Raytech Construction, in the amount of $36,988,562.50. The last one was Blue Sky Construction. The bid amount was $51,446,220.75. So basically, the first 3 bidders were, they closed to between $500,000 and $700,000 gap. The lowest was NHCRWA Utilities LLC, $27,327,000, which is almost 3% lower than the engineer's estimate. Engineer's estimate was $28,163,170. So the ask is to approve the construction award pending TWB's approval of the award list.
Has NHCRWA Utilities ever built anything for us before?
I'm not aware that they bid us for us, but they have bid for the city of Houston and many other.
Why does, Garber have 2 different bids?
No, sorry, that's what I made the correction. The number 2 should be Principal Service, that's error. The number 2 should be Principal Services, number 3 is Dave Garber. That was error on our part, I don't know.
So they were a subcontractor.
So, yes,
On the post station.
And Robert probably has subcontractors.
They do, they've got a couple of subcontractors that kind of help with some of the tunneling and the directional drilling portion of the project.
So there wasn't that much difference in the price, the bids for a couple of these, 2 or 3 of them.
3 of them that work pretty tight with each other.
Yeah.
the first and second is always happening over there, and the first and third is 700.
So do you strictly just go with the bid?
We look at the bids, we look at the bids, bidders qualification. We also look at the bids, if they imbalance of the bids, we look at all the details and what kind of experience they have in the past. Have we done?
Was it good with the city or not?
Well, yes, I
I hope so.
it is good.
And on this, we did bid this as traditional design bid build, we did not do it as a competitive sale proposal where you can score price and qualifications. So really, we have to recommend whoever is the lowest responsive and responsible contractor. So we did the due diligence to confirm that they were responsive in what they submitted, and that they were responsible and had done similar work. But unfortunately, beyond that, we were a little bit constrained in terms of we did it as a hard bid, so you go with the lowest bidder if they're responsive and responsible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think I understand it, but just again, kind of for the record, if I'm reading your metrics sheet right, which by the way, I appreciate the way you got this laid out. This will have a capacity of 49 million a day, and yet the demand expressed by this is only 0.25 million a day. So, can you explain that to people that might not?
Sure, so what we're measuring on here, what you're seeing on hydraulic capacity of the transmission system, this is the maximum flow that we can get through that pipe. This is as Raj put it, an artery to your overall system. And so it actually is conveying flows and allowing to redistribute pressure to multiple areas within the whole entire pipe network. So it's a large pipe, and the primary reason we have this pipe is to help get water to other places. But while we have this pipe there's 1 month that we're going past, one water receiving facility. So we're gonna take the opportunity to serve that while we're there. So this pipe wasn't built where you might have seen on that 37 series, those were made just to get to those water receiving facilities, and let's get out there. In this instance, we want a much larger pipe so that we can add pressure to the whole system, and we additionally are serving a quarter of an MGD or one of the water plants along the way.
You're applying in 37 series with 27 series, you have a major rotary.
And that's Grant Road is gonna get torn up, or?
That's a great question. There is, I would say there are some portions, I don't believe that they're tearing up the road, but there will be some construction along the road. There might be some maintenance of traffic that is needed,
Yeah,
or
there
traffic
are.
control that is going to be needed for constructing adjacent to the roadway on this, so there will potentially be some traffic impacts during the project. We go something trenchless in order to get through intersections and whatnot.
Do I hear a motion to approve to award the project?
I'll make a motion.
Director Graham. Any other discussion, gentlemen? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Okay, motion carries. Agenda item 10, amendment to the procedural rules of the authority, including amending section 2.05 and 2.06.
There is a new state law that changes the posting date of your meetings effective September 1, 2025. And so if you read my rules and suggestions, dates for new agenda items from the board, the same. And we would actually have to post on the same day that agenda items are viewed under our current rules. So it seems that a slight rule adjustment might be in order to move the date for items due from the directors from 6 days before the meeting to maybe the day or 2 or 3 days early.
Well, not maybe, it's already up there, right? We already covered that with
Well,
specifics, right?
This is the recommendation
Yeah.
of your senior manager and your attorney.
So we've got, get the draft out.
When you do have
10 days.
time to think about it, you don't worry.
I've already seen it, I agree with it. All right.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, before we take a motion, but before we do that, so what would this effectively be doing? Changing both dates or just one?
Well, your current rules say that you'll post in accordance with whatever the law is, so you don't have to change that. But what we might need to change is
the date that directors can submit agenda items, which we now believe is 10 days in advance. Instead of 6 days in advance, which it is now. And I think that would address the issue of weekends and potential holidays that have.
Okay, but don't we currently not even get the draft agenda until 10 days?
We would all have to change the way we work, yes. Yes, we have to move it all back.
This doesn't move it all back, right?
Well, the current rules don't have all of it, but we should certainly put that in place.
So what's showing on the screen is not revised language. That is the current language, which for example, 2.06 says 72 hours. That needs to be changed to 3 business days.
Right.
So we are considering the fact that maybe potentially a holiday falls between the 3 business days. So we suggest to have 4 business days. So Tuesday to Monday will be 4 business days, and what's the Tuesday. So that we, if like last week, July 4th is a holiday, we still got 3 business days. And because we changed the 2.06, then we also need to extend the 2.05, where currently says at least 10 days, we will need to change that to at least 12 days. And for the at least 6 days, we would need to change that to 10 days.
And have the directors already seen this or not? How come we're not looking at the draft?
Well, we have the recommendation in the memo that you have.
Okay.
Our government affairs official here, is their reason for wanting to do this? What was this bill about?
Well, the bill was about changing the 3 days to, change 72 hours to 3 business days and change time to date. I think the intent was many commissioners, courts, city councils, if they meet on Monday or meet on Tuesday, 48 hours of the 72 hours of the week is when business is closed. So I think that was, and you know, if you just look back to last weekend, 4th of July weekend, you had a holiday on Friday. If you would have posted it on Friday, it would have been closed, or you would have posted it Thursday evening late, and there wouldn't have been a business day for it. So I think that was it.
And so we can still wait next month and do it if the directors are ready tonight. Director Ramsey.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to this, of course, but I would be in favor of postponing it, and I'm thinking maybe we could get it worded where it would take into account almost anything the legislature throws at it in the future. And just what came to mind is instead of us saying 6 days prior to each meeting, like it does now, have it tied more, 3 days prior to final agenda publication or something like that, to where if something changes, then everything else ripples through and changes as well. But I don't think we're quite ready to make that decision tonight.
Would you like to help with that wording?
Yeah, sure, and I'll just move to postpone to the next meeting.
Okay, we've got a motion to postpone. Any other discussion? We do have time to postpone to the next meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Okay, motion carries, we postpone that.
Okay, next item is 9, for Harris Clemson Subsidence District. Since the legislation was filed, Director Ball and I met with the vice chair of the Harris Clemson Subsidence District. During that meeting, we agreed to keep communication channel open. And then after the session was done, I and our government affairs director met with the general manager of this Harris Galveston Subsidence District. We had probably, it was a very constructive discussion, and in which I have presented our case to him. So I will brief the board on what I have presented. What I presented to the general manager of the GSD is the authority will need regulatory relief. And for the reason is that in 2014, when we first submitted our authority's GRP, we had a strategy at the time, is to spread out the project to keep the rate as low as possible for as long as possible. And we will use the over-conversion credit to remain in compliance. What does that mean is that when we spread out the project, we will keep the project costs lower, or basically spread out to years rather than in a very short period of time. And by doing that, we will not be able to meet the conversion goal in 2025, for example, on the dot. So we projected that, and we were confident that we will be able to accumulate enough over-conversion credit to keep the authority remain in compliance. Well, just like everything else, things not always go as planned. Here's what happened. Well, before we go. So the authority has pushed forward to make the conversion plan. To date, we have spent more than $2 billion for that effort. We never slowed down because of the strategy. We always push the project forward to meet our goal. And we also estimated the future conversion effort to meet the 2035 and beyond will cost the authority and its ratepayer additional $3 billion. So those are significant amount of costs the authority has committed. And the factors that affect that strategy and cost problem is, first, the Northeast Plant Expansion Project delays. That project, when the city actually started, it was projected to be completed in 2022. And it didn't happen. So, in 2023 and 2024 permitting year, instead of receiving additional surface water to accrue additional over-conversion credit, we, the authority, actually paid out the over-conversion credit during those 2 years, and a significant amount each year, in the magnitude of $600 million a year. 600 billion, 600 million.
That sounds unreasonable.
Then we have COVID. And with the COVID pandemic, we have supply chain issues. A lot of our projects get delayed, waiting on the parts to arrive. Just give a couple examples. The pump station at 249 and 8, we were waiting on the switchboard for a long time. And for the pipeline project, we have a contractor went out there, built a line, and no valves. So they have to wait for the valve to come in 10 months later after they demobilized and come back again to put the valve in. So not only delay in time, increase the cost. Then there are a lot of state law changed regarding the property owner's rights that significantly slowed down easement acquisitions. For a point can system, the authority normally get the acquisition under the property on average 6 to 8 months. Now it's a minimum of 3 to 5 years. And lastly, the government agency, our regulatory agency, changed their policies and make the review and approval process much more difficult and take much longer. For example, in the past, the city and county and PWD will all allow the authority to take a parallel approach, which means we can ask those agencies to review our design plan at the same time to acquire our easement. Not anymore. Now, unless you acquire every parcels and record them in the Harris County Clerk's office, they will not even look at your plan. So that significantly delayed the review and approval process. With all those things that totally out of our control, our projects are delayed. That answers your question, Director Parker. Are we late? Are we not able to meet? Yes, we are. And we are delayed, both because we have a strategy to allow us to be late, or I wouldn't say be late, allow us to build the projects beyond the regulatory deadline. But that deadline has come and the project's further delayed, so we would not be able to meet those goals. So what is the significance of those factors, project delays? You have all seen this chart. That was first presented to the board in March of this year, or February. And what the yellow area presented represents that below the horizontal, what I call the zero line, is that the entire yellow triangle area below that zero line will be our deficit. We will have on average about $5 billion in each of those 3 years in deficit. We will need to use either over-conversion credit or pay the disincentive. And to translate that triangle, the impact of that deficit triangle, those are the numbers. If we run out of the over-conversion credit in 2029, which is under the normal demand condition, we will be in $800 million deficit, which translates to $10 million disincentive. And if we run out of over-conversion credit between the year of 2027 and 2031, which is the high demand scenario. The high demand could be caused by new development, but more likely drought. Then the deficit will quickly increase to $19 billion, which translates to $250 million in disincentive. With that, and what we showed earlier, what the cost that the authority has invested or will invest in the near future to pay that kind of disincentive, to pay that kind of financial penalty, is not only unfair but unreasonable.
I don't think people are gonna have it.
So what I presented during the meeting I had with the general manager is the delay is beyond the authority's control. The financial penalty are unreasonable and unfair. Regulatory relief is a necessity in this case to keep the authority solid and to continue its mission. And I would characterize that those points were well received and have different opinion on that. So what we agreed after the meeting, or at the end of the meeting, is we will continue the communication and we will start discuss viable options for the relief. And so what I want to do tonight is to brief the board, this development and ask the board's support for me to continue the next steps. There's no motion needed, I don't think. Right?
No, this is just continuing.
This is just discussion. And, but I would appreciate a verbal support, for me to continue this.
What are the next steps?
Thank you. Anyone know, and ask different, anyone oppose me to continue this effort?
And the reason we're not going into executive session, just as a matter of saving time, just, because we can't discuss this in executive session.
We have no reason to.
Right. And has the sausage come up with some solutions?
They have suggested some possible solutions, but that will need further discussion.
So we're not approving you to agree to anything, right?
That's correct, that's correct. Just continue the conversation.
Stay the course.
Yes, sir.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thanks for putting all that together. I hope that, I know they're listening.
Probably.
I hope they're listening and they realize, you
Okay,
know,
that concludes my, no, actually not, next item is also, we have reduced rate 3 times. And at a director's request, I put this together, last time when we had rate adjustment discussion. And I have, again, at a director's request, I have updated this chart. And last time I believe the difference between the cost of the water and our existing fee rate is $2.15, So now that difference has reduced to $1.88. And I just want to point out that the rate here, the $4.93 cost of the water does not include the 19 cents for the other authorities' operating costs. So if you want really in all inclusive of all the costs for the authorities' cost, it will be 19 cents plus the $4.93, which will get you $5.12. And I think the motion for the board is to authorize me to conduct a public hearing for the rate increase, and I would suggest not to take the entire $1.88 in one step. I would recommend to the board, if the board wants to bring the cost, bring our rate more closer to the actual cost of the water, I would suggest to take 2 different phases. it was the phase one increase by $1 only.
I have the same spreadsheet, this same sheet at home, and it has $1.21 difference, and now it's on 188.
Did you get that from last time?
From just,
In April or something?
it would have been less, November-ish?
Yeah,
I left it.
so the number has changed, yes.
Wow.
So we would have the hearing, I guess, at 6 o'clock at our August meeting?
Yes, sir, we can do that.
Yeah, I'd make that.
Well, yeah, let's just have some discussion. Okay, make the motion, go ahead. So,
So, I just wanna throw out, so I have this from last fall, and it has debt service $2.02.
That's correct. And that the debt service has increased because we have carried on more projects since that time to today. So the $2.82 now includes the newly issued bond and financial service cost.
Which you closed last fall, or when?
Correct. So that number will continue to go up. That's no question about it.
So I don't wanna break anybody's heart here, that these numbers can't be right. And the reason they can't be right is, if you look at our chart, can you go back to your presentation, man? With the chart that shows the revenues and the top and the rates? The operation fund?
Talking about savings. Yes?
The next one.
There is.
Well, it's in the board packet.
Oh, yeah.
This one.
I don't have that in the PowerPoint.
Okay, well,
It's the page past that one.
that's a page past that one. Just for an example, though, last month, the purple section was 285 million. So our fund's been going up, even with the rate reduction, by $10 million a month.
Yes.
So how is it that our rates are too low when we're still raking in money, extra money every month? To me, it's almost balanced now, almost balanced, but it's still growing.
Okay, so first of all, you cannot use the balance of the accounts to judge what the cost of the water is. So just based on the balance of the account, to say that sheet that I just presented was wrong, I don't think that is a logic.
I'll just base it on my pocketbook.
Yeah, well, okay.
If I bring in $10,000,
Well,
and I think I spent $10,100, but I really think I ended up with $11,000 at the end. So tells me my math is wrong.
Well, okay, math is not wrong. So I first want to point out, you cannot use the balance of the account to dispute the rate and the cost of the water. Now I'm going back to why the account balance did not go down. Because the payment on those accounts has a time effect involved. A lot of our debt service payment is at the end of the fiscal year. And so you will receive revenue and increase your reserve, and then you will have a high payment at the end of the year to bring the balance back. Secondly, and Sandy, you certainly know this more than I do, you can chime in anytime you want. Secondly, also the balance of the account based on when the project is carried out. We have not come to board asking a lot of projects. This month is the only project we brought to the board for approval to proceed. in several months. So, that also will bring the account, especially the blue portion, will significant.
The blue portion.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the blue portion.
Okay, I know you talk about the purple.
Yes.
And the purple also is the purple is the last bucket, if you will. All those buckets will overflow, and whatever the overflow will go into this reserve. When you have a deficit in those other buckets, the other bucket will start taking the funds back to the other bucket. So they are interrelated.
Well, I agree they're interrelated. What I see though is that we are not on purpose, but effectively doing the same thing as Harris County Total Authorities and has a huge budget of overcharging. That we have this huge amount of money in that now gets wasted doing whatever the hell else they want to do. And there was lots of promises made to the taxpayers about the water, about the toll road authority, that it was all gonna be no fees at the end. And that certainly hasn't happened. So I won't be comfortable in my mind until that number is in the $100 million max range. When you're operating or something in that range.
Yeah, I think, well, okay, I'm not involved in, or I'm not here to advocate one way or the other. I was asked to present the cost of water, and I believe I presented the cost of water accurately.
Okay.
Whether the board wants to, or how much reserve balance the board wants to keep in our reserve account, that's board decision. And how comfortable the board is with charging the rate less than the cost of water. That's also board's decision. So.
And so I'm not arguing with you, Jim.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I'm putting the information and my opinion out in front of the board.
It's my turn. I just generally object to providing a service at a loss. It just doesn't make sense to me. For every 1,000 gallons that we provide, we're using $1.88. I don't see the logic in that. And I think that we need to adjust our rates. At least, let's sell water at what it costs us. You know, we don't need to make any money off of the water rate. In fact, I don't think we actually have. I mean, the last time they justified a rate cut was because they were saying that we were overcharging. And that's, to me, to this day, is still not true. People just bought more water in that really dry summer. And that's where our revenues went up. It wasn't because our rate was too high, they bought more water. And this is the same, to me, it's the same thing. Our rate is not, it's not too high, in fact, it's way too flippin' low. And we ought to at least be, as responsible, as a responsible entity, ought to be charging what the water costs us. You know, just flat, even, Steven, whatever. But this continuing to sell water for less than what it costs us, and I would say substantially less than what it costs us. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And that's why I asked for a recalculation of that figure. I think it's time we reconsider our water rates. And I agree that, you know, we shouldn't just spike it
just jump everything back up to $1.88, you know, but I think it just makes fiscal sense to at least give Walter what it's costing us.
And I hope then it was $1.21, now it's $1.88. So, remind me, why are we not, waiting for the rate study? Cause it's gonna take too long, I think Director Ramsey.
To your question, yes, rate study will complete in at least 16 months.
Yeah, well, thank you, Director Reynolds. First thing on my list was actually, we just hired somebody to study our rates, was the last meeting or 2 meetings ago. And it's absolutely ludicrous for us to bypass that without at least hearing the results of that rate study. That would essentially be throwing away $200,000. That is not fiscally responsible. I'm not sure why now, because if you recall when we cut rates the last time, the sort of tacit agreement was we would watch the capital improvement fund and see how it's doing over the next 6 to 8 months and relook at things in September or October. Granted, the interest payments coming up and everything, but we would relook at things, and now all of a sudden we want to speed it up. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Why when we've had, as Director Barker pointed out, a rock solid, even increase in capital improvement, buckets are flowing into that fund. If you look at all the other buckets, which rightfully we don't have as much control over, we have, if you add those up, about, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Cynthia, about 1.1 billion with a B. Let that sink in cash reserves. That's more than the budget of some major cities and even small states. That is not our money, that is taxpayer money. And we lowered rates. We don't have to get into any whose fault is it that we've got an extra $1 billion. Some of it's the bond covenants, I get all that. But we've got $300 million that the stated intent for the last 2 years has been to lower that fund. There's been some discussion as to what we should lower it to, whether it's 50 million, my own personal, I think that's plenty. Some of you, I think even Director Fessler thought maybe 100 million might be appropriate, but we're still at 300 million. To Director Barker's points, about a year ago, we could literally give water away for about a year or two and still be financially secure. There's absolutely nothing wrong with giving ratepayers a break. If y'all remember the drought, it absolutely devastated some neighborhoods that to this day have not recovered other than the rainfall that's come in naturally. How much is enough? Whether it's 50 million, 100 million, I don't care. That remains to be determined. The point is we haven't made a dent in it yet. The only dent that was made was when there was a payment out of it, what was it, 6 or 8 months ago, Cindy, when there was some kind of financial obligation that had been forgotten about that had to dip into the improvement fund to pay. And that never was really explained, at least to me. And then last, and maybe most importantly, who in the world are we representing? Is there anybody in this room who has had the end ratepayers call you and say, please raise my water rates? The water rates are too low. That's not happening. Every time it comes up in any meeting I'm at, people are grateful that the rates are at least manageable, even with the knowledge that they may go back up in a year, 2 years, whatever it may be. Nobody's clamoring for bigger government, which is effectively what this does. It takes more money out of the taxpayer pocket. Okay, you can quibble, we're not strictly speaking collecting taxes, but it takes more money out of their pocket and less available for them to spend on their family. I don't know, that's probably too long already, but, I would vote to postpone this until, I'll move to postpone it, until October, which I believe was our original discussion anyway. And it really should be longer than that, because we got this rate study coming.
So should we see if the rate study can be any quicker and wait on the rate study? Is that like?
If I could amend my motion, how about if we delay this until we have a result of the rate study?
What rate study? When you voted 2 meetings ago to have a rate study. We hired a lady, and she was supposed to.
You just said about 7 months, 8 months.
6 to 8.
Well, okay. I think the water rate, that $1.88 is actually, I can logically in my mind separate that from the improvement fund. In one regard, I don't know how we expect June to go to the subsidence district and ask for relief when we're selling water for $1.88 less than what it's costing us. And you know, it's like, wait, you want us to give you financial relief, but you're selling water at a $2 loss? You know, that doesn't make, you know, that just weakens his position in working with the subsidence district. Regarding the improvement fund, I think that could be addressed as a separate topic. I think some of that money, we probably ought to be spending it on projects. I don't know, I mean, I do like having a reserve, I like having some cash in case one of those other funds, you know, it's a good substantial amount of money pulled out. We've got something to shift around. I like to have some room to play. Play isn't the right word, but,
Well, the rating agencies want us to have money too.
yes, they do. But, so I think selling water at what it costs us, we don't need a rate study for that. I think we need a rate study to figure out what do we need to do as far as planning for when we need to borrow more money. What are those rates gonna have to be? But right now, selling water at a loss, to me, is just plain as the nose on your face. We shouldn't be doing that. That's my take.
Well, I would say we're offering water, I will argue about whether there's a real loss here. But we're offering this at a reduced rate because we overcharged for 23 years.
No, we did not.
We had to. How did we end up with $300 million sitting there with, that is not attached to anything? Where did that come from if it didn't come from the ratepayers? It came from the ratepayers. And I am a firm believer that governments should operate at nothing. They should have what they need to operate. There should be no money making in the government. The government should be a at cost, overall cost, setup.
I'll go along with that.
And so, but right now, we have a bunch of money that keeps growing. And I don't feel comfortable that it sits there for that long. And we just passed the GRP Act thing, which was gonna bring more money into that fund. We do the golf course supplemental fee, which brings more money into that fund. So there's all these coming in that affect our overall rate, but don't have any effect on the base rate. So the only way we can bring it down is to drop the base rate down. As you know, I'm completely for getting people that are coming into the system to pay for their share getting people to pay for reused water, all those things, that is great, and that brings more money in, which means our costs come down, which means our rates can come down. And right now, if you look at what we've got, they're right even, nothing's changed, in 8 months, nothing's changed. Maybe it's interest rates, maybe the fact that we're getting 3 times the interest rates now, maybe that's where the money's coming, but the money's coming from somewhere, because if we're operating at $1.88, 1,000 gallons at a loss, we'd be seeing it in those numbers, and we're not.
So, I'm gonna go back to the improvement fund. That improvement fund, based on some of the numbers that June showed us, could actually end up being the disincentive fee fund. If the subsidence districts, if our discussions with them don't work out to our favor, we could be taking quite a bit of money out of that fund. It's these unknowns, like this being, right now we're in a particularly wet, it's been a wet summer.
Which means our revenue should be down.
Our costs, we still gotta build stuff.
I know, and our revenues are, I'm agreeing with you that. We are still building at the pace. Our revenues must be down in a wet year versus what they would be in a dry year. And our bank account keeps growing.
So that, I think, is something that certainly merits investigation. But I just, I'm willing to postpone, doing this a couple months, but I don't wanna wait till the end of the year, I don't wanna wait 7 months for a rate study. Maybe we just need a little more information, but it just gnarls at me. That $1.88 figure just digs at me.
There's only 3 things that come into that fund. It's the fees we charge for the water, interest, and then what's the third one? There's one other little component that comes in there. It's on that chart. I guess it's just those 2. It's interest rates, and the only things that drop into that fund are the interest rates and the fees. So interest rates have also been flat. Our fees have dropped a little bit, or actually our fees have dropped significantly, but we haven't seen any change in this chart. In fact, it's gone up since December. So it's roughly, on this scale, it's roughly level, since December.
I said this at the last rate reduction vote that we had. I don't like the idea of trying to give all that money, or at least half of it, out of that improvement fund, just redistributing it to the ratepayers just willy-nilly, because we're gonna need that money to keep building out this other $3 billion worth of projects. We can use some of that money for that. Otherwise, if we refund a big chunk of that cash, we're gonna have to turn around and borrow it again. And now we're gonna have to pay interest and borrow that same money that we've had in the bank, because we I can be careful about my words here, because they'll be used against me. But refunding money, and then basically you're gonna ask the ratepayers to, we need to borrow that money again, we're gonna have to pay interest on it, because, we gave it back to you back in 2025, or whenever it was. So, I know it's 2 different points of view.
Director Ramsey?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got to answer a few of those things, Director Fessler, because there's reasons to disagree with you. Let me just leave it at that. First of all, the rating agencies, it's not like we won't be able to get money if something changes. Nothing has changed. We've had John tell us repeatedly, we are the best financed water project in the entire nation. Okay? First of all. Second of all, City of Chicago is essentially bankrupt right now. And you know what? They're still selling bonds. They're paying a little higher interest rate, but they're still selling muni bonds. And they're bankrupt. On the bit about giving June ammunition, if you think back to the election, when was that, 2022? The very fact that we got 3 board members is because the public spoke very loudly that rates were too high at the $5 and change level. That was too high. The people spoke. It was not a borderline close vote in any of the 3 races. People were getting involved in something they had never gotten involved before, and they were saying rates are too high. To willy-nilly, to use your term, go raise rates back and ignore the will of the people in that election is the height of arrogance, perhaps in excess of even what Congress has been doing lately. The third point is that when you try to put all these different things in your mind into different categories, unless it is in a particular bucket because of a bond covenant, and granted about $500 million is in that category, but everything else is fungible. And even within the 500 million category, a big chunk of that is fungible. It can be moved around, it can be used on other projects. I didn't interrupt you. It has been moved around. We just saved about, what was it, $112 million in financing that wasn't necessary because we basically had too much in that part of the reserve. We've also added some charges here and there. We've added interest that we've collected. I mean, there's a lot of things that have gone on that have improved our financial situation quite a bit. It hasn't been static the last 2.5 years. We've had really good financing options that John has presented us. The most recent we haven't done yet was going to free up another $11 million. That's not trivial. That's also not our money. That is the taxpayer, ratepayers' money. And yeah, we should be good stewards of that. We should do the best we can with it. But it's not our money, it's theirs. As far as your comment about the borrowing, I hadn't even thought about that one in 6 or 8 months. But to some extent, it underscores the problem because we've got $300 million sitting there that is completely unattached to anything, or 295, completely unattached to anything. Another way of thinking about that is that we have borrowed nearly $300 million above and beyond what we had to borrow, and we're paying off those bonds. If we had been operating with that improvement fund at 0, I'm not saying we should have it to 0, but had we been doing that, we would have borrowed $300 million less. And I mean, we've got less debt than we would have had 2.5 years ago at this point going forward. What else? Water usage. This is kind of the last part, at least of what I'm answering. If we go raising rates back to $5, $6, I think Ron's fear number was $8 or $9. If you use the numbers June presented, we're actually at 12 something. if you start looking at rates that high, and we've already had testimony to that effect here, what happens is people stop using the water. It's not 100% inelastic. It becomes elastic in its demand. And so at that point, if it takes, for example, $10 per thousand to pay the debt, and people use 20, 30, 50% less water because they simply can't afford to have a water bill that's as high as their property tax, then what does that do to the per thousand gallon cost going forward? If our water usage drops by 50%, what does that do to our rates to break even? We get into a debt spiral. And it's happened in different places. We don't want that to happen here. And for all of those reasons, I think we go back to what was our plan 2 months ago and wait and hear what the rate study people say.
Thank you, Director Ramsey. Jim, may I ask, are we gonna be, taking on more debt soon? Do we have more legal money? Any plan? When will that be?
Not this year.
End of this year?
Usually November is the close.
So our debt service is gonna increase. And what made it go from 121 difference to 188?
Well, you have that chart, where you can compare that, the debt service has increased.
Right.
From last time it was 202, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, from 202 to 282, so that's 80 cents right there.
You know, before we lowered the rate by $1 last October, we were told we could sustain the rates for like 4 years. But then we did that, and then we heard it only lasts 1 year, so I guess it depends too.
So far, we haven't seen any drawdown in that funds.
I don't think we should be selling water for cheaper than we're paying for it, but I mean, you made some strong points, Director
Think of it
Ramsey.
this way. The water users prepaid, like prepaid insurance. And so now we're getting a break on the rates to pay on a monthly basis.
Well, we're already borrowing the ratepayers' money, because they've already paid sales tax. It's already gone into the Texas rate fund, then it's already gone to the Texas Water Development Board, and now they're reborrowing their own money. I thought we already kind of agreed on that. They're taking on more debt, but anyway, that's another point.
Maybe you could look at debt a couple different ways too, is with growth, should the debt be on the people who were at the beginning, or should the debt be on the people who are causing the growth?
The people causing the growth.
Which means that you want to finance it over the 30 years. Because that now charges the people who move in here 20 years from now for the system that they have. Not the people who had no system that have been paying for 20 years to finally get water. So.
Well, I know whatever we do, we need to, this time, next time we do it, change the rates, we need to give the a few months heads up. I know if we were gonna approve this, I wouldn't have agreed to increase rates for a few months. But I agree we should wait on the rate study, so because it probably takes more like 6 months and not 8 months. To postpone, till we get the rate study. Okay, we've got a motion to postpone, authorizing a public hearing on the rate increase. So any other discussion? We're postponing until we get the rate study back.
When is the rate study supposed to be done? I thought we hired a consultant, but I didn't know they were working on something.
They have not started working. we actually approved their, engagement in the treaty, not treaties. We approved for the treaty, and we negotiated the contract, and their legal has, they have a big firm, so they have legal department. Their legal have issues with contract language. So their lawyer has to work with our general counsel and to iron out what kind of language they will accept, what kind of change they want to make that we can accept. So we have just issued a notice to proceed, which is finally signed agreement, and we authorized them that, to proceed last week. So, based on their estimated timeline, I think for them to finish their rate study will be at least 6 months.
Oh, George James.
Yeah.
What's up?
After what Jim said, I'd like to, friendly amend, if the director's unopposed, my postponement motion, and just do it for 6 months. And that way, if the rate study's here, we can go ahead. If it's not quite here, we can take another look at it before it's here. Talk some things over. We'll probably have some preliminary results by then, at least. But 6 months instead of tying it to the rate study.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to postpone, authorizing public hearing for 6 months. Any other discussion? Any other industry? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
No.
Okay, motion carries 3-2. Okay, well, we've been meeting over 2 hours now, so I think, if no one objects, I need a little break.
That's
Take
3
a-
minutes.
What's on the left, what's left?
One thing left.
Good night.
Okay. Try to do it. Okay, agenda item 13, legal counsel services. So, I put this item on the agenda. I believe the authority must operate in a well-managed and transparent and legally compliant manner. Our legal counsel must meet high standards of professionalism, reliability, accuracy, and timeliness. And I'd like to raise a concern regarding potential conflict of interest involving our general counsel. Specifically, and I have something I can pass out to you guys if you'd like it. There have been ongoing interactions between our attorney, Andy Johnson, and his law partner, Alan Petroff, who currently serves as the chairman of the Harris Galveston Supply District Board. This entity directly regulates our authority. Given the nature of this relationship and the sensitive matters we regularly consider involving this Supply District, I believe it's appropriate to openly acknowledge this perceived or actual conflict. I also think we as a board should discuss whether continued involvement from counsel in certain matters could present a risk to our independence or objectivity. I raise this not as a personal criticism, but as a matter of governance and public trust. I do have something I could, not cover. I've got some bullet points of concerns. One action we could take is terminating our agreement with Johnson Petroff, or possibly conducting an independent audit review of our council's performance and conflicts. So get someone independently to do this, so it's not on the board. Be sure we're setting fair performance and accountability expectations and timelines, and maybe revisit this issue based on audit findings. There's some of y'all don't think there's a conflict, or some of y'all like are trying to utilize, take advantage of this relationship that our attorney has with the Subsistence District, which I don't feel is right. We've also, 2 years ago, came up with, policies and procedures regarding reporting perceived potential and actual conflicts of interest. And maybe I thought about this today, you know, considering I feel like there is a, perceived or potential, if not actual, conflict of interest. I'm wondering, you know, to me, I don't see how we can, make the vendors and staff and everyone sign this, conflicts of interest form when I feel like general counsel has conflict. Anyway, just thought about that today. I believe there are some, I've brought this up before, there's things that, there might be things you can improve on, Andy Johnson, but I think there's things that there's a conflict, you know, with your partner being the chairman of the board of the Subsistence District. And I just want to bring this up again. We are at the 2-year mark of, that's when the board hired you. And just wondered what the board's thoughts are. Anything, board?
Could we postpone this? You're trying to present a case, I'm not gonna make a decision tonight
Is that
based
your
on this.
motion?
What?
Is that your motion to postpone it
I
until
was-
next
I
month?
was gonna ask.
Sure. Would y'all like more time to review these issues that got brought
There are a
up?
lot of allegations on here that I think at least owe Mr. Johnson the ability to address.
Tonight, or no?
You know, he should have time to prepare, because there's a lot of accusations here with no data that is on the sheet.
Not on, no, not, it's not on here.
So, this is, you know, this is a whole bunch of stuff that is, as of right now, in my mind, unsubstantiated, until it's substantiated. And he has the right to have his say in that process.
Well, these things have been going on, some of these things have, I've had this list going for a year or more, so. And the fact that his partner is the chairman of the board of Subsistence District, that's not an allegation, that's a fact. Director Ramsey?
But then we're gonna bring back Holly Garza, who is also a conflict of interest, because most of our customers are he has a dozen or 2 to 3 dozen of our customers.
That's gonna be the same with any.
How's it any different? The fact that what is the difference? We either get somebody completely out of the water industry in the local area, or we have these conflicts. And if we're trying to find somebody completely out of the water in this area, and then bring them up to speed on what the water laws are. I mean, so I think this needs a lot more before I'm gonna give it the time of day.
So I'd like to move that we postpone this agenda item until at least next month.
I'd like to amend that to indefinitely.
Well, I'm not gonna take that as a friendly. I think it's, if the president of the board is concerned with this, then I think it needs to bear its discussion. But to Director Parker's point, we need to hear both sides.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to postpone until next month, this agenda item. Any other discussion?
I think it's gonna take more than, it doesn't have to take indefinitely, but September, October.
I don't personally even see any reason to be going through this, certainly not in the executive session.
Okay, so we're gonna postpone until next month. That's what
That's my
motion's on,
motion.
that's the motion on the table. Any other discussion?
We can always take this back up, and we'll always postpone it again if we need, but.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. So three don't wanna postpone. Motion fails. Well, I'd like to move that we, conduct an independent, audit or review of, the council's performance, any conflicts, and get it. Are y'all interested in knowing if there's conflicts or not?
But who's gonna do this audit?
I'm not sure. Would y'all like me to go over some of these bullet points?
As I said, this should all executive session.
Yeah, everything beyond this should be an executive session. We've already probably should have done executive session already. You're talking about things that, there's some of these things in here are potential legal violations,
Exactly.
right? So.
Exactly, and Director Ramsey.
He means, by you bringing them up, they're potential
Oh.
legal.
Yeah, there's stuff on here that is, yeah, I'm not comfortable with discussing it any further in this meeting.
So you, we will go to executive session?
I don't think we're ready to discuss an executive session right now either. And
Okay.
I don't think till August 4th is enough time to be ready either.
Okay, I move to postpone this till the September meeting. Any discussion on that? That gives 2 months. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries 3 to 1 to 1. We're gonna postpone this till the September meeting.
I'd like to get a copy of that list, 2 months.
Okay, next agenda item is 14, board discussion potential future agenda items. Anything, board? Nothing. Oh, Director Ramsey.
Yeah, I've just got a real minor thing, I don't think it even requires any board action, but, I know a lot of school districts basically put their check register online. If we're not already doing that somehow, I think we ought to start doing that. Just in the interest of transparency. Yeah.
Maybe about where it should be, check the register.
Bank statement.
Yeah, so without, yeah, essentially where you, I mean,
All the bills you paid, all the money you bought it all.
So that's included in the board packet, there's a monthly check register.
But
The
is
last
it-
few items
Well,
that's posted on the website.
okay, I don't wanna turn it into a big discussion. I'm talking about in a fashion where the public could easily search it, that sort of thing. Which would be Excel, or could be Excel or whatever.
Okay, is that it?
So that's an agenda item for next month.
Well, if we even need to, just,
I think we need to give the staff a chance to respond, logistics.
look into it. If we need to make change without board action, I will definitely, let the president and legal counsel know before the next agenda was done.
Okay, the next agenda item is, 15, saying the next regular board meeting will be August 4th, 2025. And if there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 8:20. Thank you all for attending.